What is up, fight fans? DJC Combat here, and in today's video, I want to talk about the current champions of today versus the champions of the past, the older gen. I've done videos like this before, but this one's going to be a little different from the one I did in 2024. This one is actually a response video to this Instagram post I saw from the MMA Up. Shout out to him. You can follow him. Hopefully he sees this video, where he posted a picture of the class of 2011 champions. I think this is before there was even a flyweight division in the UFC. This is back when the only weight classes in the UFC was bantamweight men's, featherweight, lightweight, welterweight, middleweight, light heavyweight, and heavyweight. So how many weight classes is that? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I think 7 weight classes, and there was no women's MMA as well. That's why I said bantamweight men's. Because if you remember, back then in 2011, in the spring, there was a panel where all the champs of that time were together. I think answering questions from the media, and they all took pics together. And the MMA Up used that old picture and cropped it next to the current champs, the current wave of champions in those same weight classes. So the heavyweight champion, Tom Aspinall, the light heavyweight champion, Magomed Ankalaev, the middleweight champion, Dricus du Plessis, the welterweight champion, Jack Della Maddalena, the lightweight champ, Ilya Toporia, the featherweight champ, Volkanovski, and the bantamweight champ, Morab de Velasquez. So 2025 champs versus 2011 champions. Who wins each of these matchups? I'm going to answer this question through this video and break down how I think each of these fights go. And mind you, 2011, this was like the peak of each of these guys' careers, okay? This was Kane in his prime, John Jones in his prime, the final 2 years of Anderson in his prime, GSP in his prime, Frankie riding the momentum of beating BJ Penn twice, that draw with Gray Maynard. This is before he went on to knock him out in the trilogy. Jose Aldo before Conor McGregor happened, and Dominic Cruz before all the injuries derailed him, and Cody Garbrandt. So let's break it down. I'm going to start with the heavyweight division. I'm going to start with Tom Aspinall versus Cain Velasquez. Now, who would win that fight? In many ways, I could see Prime Cain being a horrible stylistic matchup for Tom Aspinall, because we haven't really seen Tom's wrestling get tested defensively in the UFC so far, or maybe against lower tier grapplers, but not against the level of wrestling of Cain. We've not seen Tom fight more than 2 rounds in the UFC. And Cain Velasquez, in his prime, was known to have some of the best cardio in the UFC. He was like the Morab of that generation, but in the heavyweight division, and he's very durable. He's got that Mexican toughness, and he also is very fast for a heavyweight. But advantages that Aspinall has: obviously a way better striker, way better boxing, way better footwork, good off the back foot, good counter striker. Now, you could maybe make comparisons to Tom and Junior Dos Santos. Junior back in the day was a fast heavyweight with good boxing and good footwork. Beat Cain once, but Cain neutralized his style in the second fight and the trilogy. But here's the difference between Junior Dos Santos and Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall does not fight along the cage willingly like Junior Dos Santos. Junior literally said he likes to back up to the fence. That was a weakness of JDS. That's why Cain's pressure worked so well. But Tom Aspinall, he won't just let Cain Velasquez back him straight up into the fence. He's going to use that defensive footwork, sidestep Cain, pivot, cut angles, misdirect him a little bit. But then even if Cain Velasquez is able to get a hold of him, Tom Aspinall, he does have that physical presence. He's much bigger than Cain, stronger than Cain, and he is very good, very effective from the clinch, dangerous with elbows and knees. He could punish Cain with clinch strikes and create separation and create space. And if he's able to do that, I think Velasquez could be in a lot of trouble because Tom Aspinall, he's way too slick with his hands, way too fluid, way too powerful. And I think he'd have a better chance at catching Cain coming in than Junior was able to, a better chance at countering Cain because in comparison to JDS, he is way less predictable with his boxing and he is a much better counterpuncher than Junior Dos Santos was. And I could see him catching Cain early with a shot that he doesn't see coming and potentially getting a first round knockout against Cain Velasquez. So in my opinion, I do believe that Tom Aspinall is the favorite to win this matchup. I think this would be like a new gen beats old gen type of fight. I just think Tom Aspinall, he is that next special breed of super heavyweight. And I think his style would be very tricky for a guy like Cain Velasquez to deal with. Cain's best chance is dragging this fight out, making it a long, drawn-out, ugly fight. But I just don't think Tom would give him a chance to properly settle into the matchup. So Tom Aspinall is my pick for this fight. I just think his speed, his power, his boxing, his size, and the fact that he's also just very well-rounded too. He could grapple. I think all that combined would make him a horrible matchup for prime Cain Velasquez. Now, Magomed Ankalaev versus John Bones Jones. Now, this one is very interesting. And I think Magomed Ankalaev very well could have a style to be the anti-John Jones. Magomed Ankalaev has very solid wrestling. He matches the wrestling of John Jones. It may not be as good as John Jones, but it may be enough just for the wrestling to kind of cancel each other out. John might struggle to get the fight to the ground. Both guys are very good in the clinch. And Magomed Ankalaev is bigger than anyone else John Jones has ever beaten in his prime in the light heavyweight division, close to John Jones's height and superior boxing. And John has always struggled with opponents who were big, who were tall, and who could outbox him. And Ankalaev can wrestle, and he can wrestle better than Alexander Gustafsson ever could, better than Dominic Reyes ever could. So it would be very difficult for John Jones to work his wrestling offense on a guy like Magomed Ankalaev. But the thing is about John Jones is he is a very smart fighter. He's got very high fight IQ and a lot of heart, a lot of determination, and he always finds a way to win no matter what. And he is very well coached. And I do think that he could figure out Ankalaev's game mid-fight. Pereira wasn't able to adjust mid-fight. John Jones could. I think John Jones overall has better striking than Ankalaev, despite Ank having better hands, because John Jones has the elbows. He's got the kicks, like a wide array of kicks, whether it be spin kicks to the body, roundhouse kicks to the body. He could go high. He had very good leg kicks as well, stomp kicks to the knees. He could potentially take out Ankalaev's legs. Even though Ank did improve his leg kicking defense, John Jones wouldn't need traditional leg kicks. He would just need the oblique kicks that he could use. Those stomp kicks to the knees could kind of stifle Ankalaev's forward pressure. And then John Jones could do that thing he always does where he posts out his long arms, which could kind of prevent Ankalaev from being able to close the distance and just frustrate Magomed Ankalaev. John Jones always had very good distance management. And overall, just his striking was more creative, more unorthodox. And even if he's not able to take down Magomed Ankalaev, he could potentially just out-clinch him. Just hold him against the fence, wear him down and outwork him in close range with shots to the body, with elbows, and just break down Ankalaev. So I'm going to say Jon Jones, being Jon Jones, having a bit of plot armor and that greatness factor, would just barely beat Ankalaev. I think he beats him by a close decision, but this would be one of Jon Jones's tougher fights of his career. Now, as for Dricus Still Knocks Du Plessis versus Anderson the Spider Silva, I've always thought that Anderson Silva would beat Dricus Du Plessis. I still hold that opinion. Now, I respect Dricus as a fighter. He is very dangerous. Okay, he's very complete. He can out-wrestle you. His jiu-jitsu is very good. Very solid ground game. Good top control. Good ground and pound. On the feet, he's dangerous. Good pressure. Unorthodox striking. And very good kicking game as well. Good leg kicks. High kicks. Knockout power in his fists. Good clinch game. But Anderson Silva had next-level plot armor. More plot armor than Dricus. And his striking was just simply too good, okay? Better than Israel Adesanya's striking, prime for prime. Better than Robert Whittaker's striking. Better than Sean Strickland's striking. Anderson's striking was lethal, okay? Super accurate punches, dangerous elbows, dangerous knees, dangerous kicks. His leg kicks were good. He could exploit that opening to Dricus's body, that same opening that Adesanya exposed. But I think Anderson Silva could potentially get a body shot finish, maybe with a knee to the body, maybe a knee to the solar plexus, maybe a knee from the clinch. The way he finished Rich Franklin, the way he finished Stephan Bonner, he could get a similar finish to on DDP. Like, if Dricus Du Plessis is not able to consistently get Silva down and control him, he's getting schooled on the feet. Anderson Silva's defense, his head movement was like out of a movie. It was like watching Spider-Man dodge punches. I don't think Dricus Du Plessis' blitz would work. All of his punches and kicks would fall short, and he would walk straight into counters of Anderson Silva and get emoted on. And just straight up embarrassed in a striking match, okay? Now, DDP's path to victory is getting the fight to the ground and holding Silva down. But Anderson Silva has fought so many wrestlers, so many grapplers. He's had so many fights where, like, he lost the first round from being taken down, like by Dan Henderson. Yushin Okami didn't take him down, but was holding him against the fence. Chael Sonnen dominated the first round of the rematch with the wrestling. And in all of these fights, Anderson Silva came back in the second round. Travis Lutter won the first round with the grappling. Silva came back in the second round. So I think Dricus Du Plessis could start strong with like an early takedown and ground control. But every fight starts back on the feet. And once the fight restarts on the feet, Anderson would get a second chance. He would reset. He would start to figure Dricus Du Plessis out. He'd start to make reads, start to get in a rhythm. And he'd probably see the takedowns coming a lot better and be able to defend them easier. Might even be able to counter the takedowns, maybe with a knee, a flying knee or something like that. And potentially get a second round finish or maybe a round 3 finish possibly. I think this fight would like last 2-3 rounds minimum with Anderson Silva getting a finish. I think Silva, prime for prime, beats Dricus 8 times out of 10. Now, as for George St. Pierre versus Jack Della Maddalena, I favor GSP to win this fight over JDM all day because I just think that he, in his prime, was the better fighter, the better mixed martial artist, the better athlete. Now, even though Jack Della Maddalena has a power and a boxing advantage and he is improving in his takedown defense, his scrambling ability, his ability to escape from bottom, as we saw against Belal Muhammad, George St. Pierre has even better wrestling than Belal. He could take down anyone at will. He had better timing and entries on his takedowns, better ground control. His striking was better than Belal, and he was better at using his striking to set up his takedowns, which would make the takedowns for GSP against JDM come a lot easier than for a guy like Belal Muhammad. And George St. Pierre was smarter than Belal, better fight IQ than Belal and JDM combined. And all around, I think GSP was an overall better striker than JDM, with a speed advantage and a footwork advantage and good striking defense as well. Good enough to neutralize the power of JDM. I don't think he would engage him in boxing range the way Belal did. I think he would keep him at the end of his kicks, also keep him at the end of his jab before being able to work his takedown. So I think George St. Pierre wins a decision in this fight. I think he does to JDM what he's pretty much done to literally everyone else he's fought and beat during his prime. Now, as for Frankie the Answer Edgar versus Ilia El Matador Toporia, I think this is an easy fight for Ilia Topuria. I think this would be one of those new gen beats old gen type of situations. Frankie's style worked in the older generation with the level of competition that he fought, but Ilia is a different animal. What Frankie Edgar had was a really good wrestling game, endless gas tank, very good pressure. He had a very good blitz, very good footwork, decent boxing, good enough boxing to set up his wrestling, and he would just overwhelm guys, and he was known for that toughness, that heart, that chin, that recovery. He survived multiple knockdowns from Gray Maynard, survived to a draw, and in the trilogy, came back from almost getting finished and finished Gray Maynard himself. But against a guy like Topuria, Ilia Topuria has a knack for putting away guys who are known to be hard to finish. He put away Max Holloway, who is known to have immortality with his chin. And I think prime Holloway, better chin than Frankie Edgar. And Frankie Edgar defensively was very flawed. There's a reason why, even in his prime, he was getting clipped as many times as he was. I just don't see his style being effective on Ilia. He's got the wrestling. Ilia Topuria also has good wrestling. Very hard man to take down, short, stocky, lower center of gravity. Guys with that build are typically very difficult to get down. And of course, Ilia Topuria, which is way better on the feet, way better with his hands, too much power, too much accuracy, really good shot placement. There's no way he does not catch Frankie Edgar on the button and put him down. And the way Frankie fights, the way he walks into range, or the way he blitzes into range, Ilia excels in the pocket, and I think he just clipped Frankie Edgar coming in, kind of like what he did to Charles Oliveira. And plus, Frankie Edgar was a beloved fan favorite, and Ilia Topuria is the fan favorite killer. So I think Ilia Topuria wins this fight by an easy first round KO. Now for the battle between the featherweight GOATs, Jose Aldo Jr. and Alexander the Great Volkanovski. What's interesting is we've seen this matchup before, but not prime for prime. Volkanovski was like on the come up, and Jose Aldo was sort of on that declining veteran stage of his career. And Volkanovski just kind of won that fight by shutting down Aldo's defense or offense, playing it safe, outworking him, out leg kicking the leg kick king, being ahead on the striking numbers and just controlling him against the fence. And Aldo literally had no urgency to get off the cage. It was kind of a boring fight. But little did we know at the time that Volkanovski was the future, not only champion of the featherweight division, but the future GOAT. That he would literally be competing with Aldo for GOAT status. And if this fight happened in Aldo's heyday, fresh off his WEC run, early in his UFC career versus Volkov today, how does it play out? It's kind of difficult to call here. Both guys, prime for prime, Aldo had tremendous speed. Volkanovski has tremendous speed, but even a few years earlier, he was even faster, like in his 2022 form. Both guys were really good on the feet. But I think Volkanovski was just, or is just slightly more technical with his hands than Jose Aldo. Aldo's a little more wild and reckless with his boxing, but Aldo had a huge power advantage. Prime for prime, does Volk out leg kick Aldo? Probably not. Aldo could check his leg kicks, deliver, and land clean his own leg kicks. Prime Aldo had to take down the fence to stop Volkanovski's takedowns, like in their 2019 fight, but also more urgency to get off the cage. I don't think he just let Volk hug him against the fence. And Prime Aldo was way more aggressive and took way more chances. I don't think he'd fight Volk as timid or fight to survive the way he did in 2019. But with that aggression, with that urgency, that could also come at a cost with him gassing out. And Aldo always struggled with cardio. Volkanovski, cardio has always been his strong suit. So I'm going to say, just based off that, if Jose Aldo isn't able to get an early finish against Volk, then I'm going to say Volkanovski edges a decision the longer the fight goes on, where Aldo has a strong start. He might drop Volk a couple of times, but without a finish, Aldo just gasses and Volkanovski just keeps pressing him, forces him to defend takedowns, initiates these exchanges where Aldo expends energy swinging big but can't get the finish. And no one outworks Volkanovski. He's hard to beat by decision. And Aldo did kind of have a bad habit of coasting in the late rounds. And that's not going to fly by with someone like Volkanovski, with the cardio, the pace, the volume that he has. So I'm going to say Volkanovski, prime for prime, still wins, but by a close decision, 48-47. Aldo wins maybe like the first 2 rounds, and then Volkanovski edges rounds 3, 4, and 5. Now for the final matchup, Dominic the Dominator Cruz versus Morab the Machine Velasquez. Another battle between two GOATs, essentially. Right now, a lot of people are regarding Morab as the current bantamweight GOAT, but Dominic Cruz, he is the guy that a lot of people look to when they talk about who's the greatest bantamweight of all time. But now people are starting to kind of put him over Dominic. But what if they fought in the same era, prime for prime, who would win? I do definitely think prime Dominic stylistically would be one of Morab's hardest matchups, because Cruz did very well against shorter opponents, and Dominic Cruz had very good footwork, good defensive footwork to deal with that forward pressure of Morab, very evasive, very good defense. He was faster than Morab, a better striker than Morab. He also had good cardio. He also had good volume. He also could wrestle, a good scrambling ability, and high fight IQ. So he could almost be like a counter, a stylistic kryptonite to Morab. However, this is not an unwinnable fight for Morab the Velasquez, because I do still think Morab has better wrestling than Cruz, even though Cruz has good wrestling. And even though Cruz does have good cardio, it's not like he can't slow down. He has slowed down a bit in fights. In the late rounds against Dillashaw, he faded against Casey Kenny. He slightly faded in the late rounds against Uriah Faber. And Morab the Velasquez, they don't call him the machine for nothing. Like, he will not slow down. And he could potentially use Dominic Cruz's style against him with that constant pressure. And Dominic lacked the power to get Morab's respect. So if Morab could just stay focused and not get discouraged by Dominic's flash and finesse, he could possibly win this fight by just forcing Cruz to constantly back up, constantly circle. And that way of fighting can be taxing. And I could see Cruz eventually slowing down and Morab starting to find more success, landing more shots, getting more takedowns. And I could see Morab edging a decision. So I'm going to say Morab wins this fight, but it's very close. And I could easily see it going the other way. Like, I would not be shocked at the idea of a prime Cruz schooling, outclassing Morab the Machine Dvalishvili. He does have the style to do so, and I get why many people actually do favor Morab in a Dominic Cruz, in a hypothetical fight between himself and Morab. I just see a path for the Machine, hence why I'm going for him. But that concludes my 2025 champs versus the 2011 champs. As you can see, my score is 4-3 in favor of the current champions, which just goes to show how much better, like, the fighters of today are, the champions of today are than the fighters, the champions of back then. The only 3 champs I really picked in this video were some of the greats of that era. And I mean, Cruz, although they were greats in their own rights, but I mean, John Jones, Anderson Silva, George St. Pierre, they were the best of that era. And I think they could hang in this era with some of the current champions. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you agree with any of these picks? Do you disagree? Like and subscribe, and peace out.